Now, like the rest of the country, you heard Boris's evidence to the Privileges Committee today. You heard my view in the digest, and this is a key moment of the former PM's forthright defence.
I'm here to say to you, hand on heart, that I did not lie to the House. When those statements were made, they were made in good faith and on the basis of what I honestly knew and believed.
So I'm asking, do you think Boris Johnson intentionally and recklessly misled Parliament? That is, of course, the question being asked by the committee. So what do you think? Email me, Dan at gbnews.uk, tweet me at gbnews. Our poll running there too. But to debate this now, I'm joined by a stellar lineup of political masterminds. The Conservative peer, Lord Stephen Greenhalgh, a long-time ally of Boris Johnson, the ex-Tory MP and criminal barrister Jerry Hayes, and the former Brexit Party MEP Annunziata Rees-Mogg. Great to have you all here. Lord Greenhalgh, the issue here is that the rules have been manipulated, haven't they, by this committee, I believe, to try and finish off Boris Johnson. Where do you think they stand after today?
Well, they haven't got a leg to stand on. We've had 10 months of investigation, hours now of cross-examination. There's not a shred of evidence that Boris knowingly misled the House. At this stage, I think we've got to move on. After all this time, I just don't think there's a case to answer, and he should be exonerated.
Annunziata, do you agree?
I do. I think today all we learnt was that they came in with a view of what Boris was like and what Boris might or might not have done, and they stuck to it. And they asked him repetitive questions, showing that they weren't really interested in understanding what he had done, who thought he'd done, who he'd spoken to, but to confirm their own conclusions.
Jerry Hayes, you strongly disagree.
To Nigel Nelson, who knows this stuff. Firstly, yeah, the rules were manipulated. Recklessness. That is a lifeline for Boris Johnson. As a criminal barrister, I tell you, if I can get a deal with the CPS to say plead to recklessness, I'll get a lesser sentence. Secondly, to attack the committee is attacking Parliament. Attack members of the committee, it's attacking Parliament, because Parliament is sovereign. Parliament is not subject to judicial review. And of course, it's not the government who supports these people, it's the House of Commons who elects these people. So you're attacking the very root of democracy, which you're saying you're trying to protect, when you're actually not. Now, he's getting a fair deal.
No, he's not.
Listened to. Well, you can see. Look, you can see. Well, who are you going to appoint? We just have your brother Annunziata. You have Jacob, who, as a great parliamentarian, so he tells us, he's attacking this what do you call it? Select
Quite
committee.
rightly. Don't bring her brilliant brother into this, who's done stellar work tonight. But look, Lord Greenhalgh, to address that question specifically that Jerry has just made, how on earth can this committee make a determination as to whether Boris recklessly misled Parliament? There's no legal precedent for the use of that word, is there? This hasn't happened before. This is unprecedented.
Well, hang on a minute, Jerry. You're a very, very distinguished barrister. This isn't a court of law. This is Parliament. And I ask the straight question of people who know, very distinguished lawyers and people who look at parliamentary precedent, has anyone ever found to have been guilty of recklessly misleading Parliament in the history of Parliament, the mother of all parliaments? And the answer is resolute no. It doesn't exist as a category of offence. And there's no precedent. It's not in Erskine's. This is something that is cooked up by this committee as something where they might be able to find something, because we don't even know quite what that means. The real thing, and you're a criminal barrister, is you commit the act, that's not enough, that's the actus reus. Did you knowingly commit the act? And after months and hours of questioning, a police investigation, the Sue Great report, there's not a shred of evidence that he knowingly misled the House. So come on, it's time to move on.
That's not the issue. Recklessness speak helps him. That's the whole point.
How does it help him? If you're up for an offence, how do you get convicted of an offence when the offence doesn't exist in parliamentary terms?
zero offence. Look, you know Boris as better than most of us do. And he is quite a reckless guy. He sails by the seat of his pants.
But Jerry, this is the point, though, isn't it?
That is why they have done it. But it only helps Boris if you start from the point of view that he is guilty. That it doesn't help him if he is not guilty. It adds a lesser charge that is easier to find him guilty.
Yeah, and Annunziata, that's what this Privileges Committee have done, though, haven't they? They have determined his guilt before they've heard a shred of evidence. Yeah. We know that the chairwoman, Harriet Harman, actually expressed that view on Twitter. So, Annunziata, I don't trust the motivation of this committee. I believe they do think Boris is guilty and they're trying to prove it. Annunziata can respond and then you can come in, Jerry.
Dean Boris?
Let Annunziata respond. Let Annunziata respond, Jerry. Jerry, let Annunziata respond and then you can come in.
If you believe that the reckless will get him a lighter sentence, it's only a lighter sentence if you start from the point of view that he's guilty. If you think it should have been a fair and open trial, it wasn't necessary. Sorry, committee hearing, investigation, yet another investigation where we've already had so many from the Metropolitan Police, from Sue Gray, who have done this job. And a lot of that evidence wasn't even taken into account.
Indeed.
This is not a serious call.
Jerry, let me just put something to you. You're one of the members of the establishment who just have a visceral hatred of Boris Johnson, don't you? This is personal for you.
No, look, I rather like Boris. He's a very companionable individual. What we don't like about Boris, he doesn't have a really good and happy relationship with the truth. For a start, he said, well, no, never mind. Let's get back to the committee, because that's really, really important. The committee have given him a lawyer, which we're paying for. David Pannick, Lord Pannick. Never happened before. So that's interesting. Secondly, they consulted a former Lord Justice of Appeal who used to run the court system for fairness. So they've taken advice. So it's going to be fair. And then finally, it's not them. Parliament decides, and the Conservatives have said it's going to be a free vote. Now, it can't get much better than that. You can't say that's a witch hunt. It's democracy. It's parliamentary sovereignty.
Lord Greenhalgh?
It is a witch hunt if you invent a new charge after the event. We do not believe in retrospective law in this country. And this is what they have done.
Lord Greenhalgh, do you want to respond?
Well, look, the reality is that every single shred of evidence that could have got Boris has been given to that committee, unredacted. They've had months and months and months to look at things, and frankly, they've come up with absolutely nothing. It's time to move on. I think the country's sick and tired of all of this.
And Lord Greenhalgh, you are, of course, one of Boris's closest allies. Do you think there's another act to his political career?
Well,
is he still motivated by that?
Well, I think he is. I mean, this is a man with the Midas touch when it comes to elections. I've described him as the Conservatives' Wilson, someone who will come back again and serve a distinct second term as Prime Minister. He's electoral stardust, and we haven't heard the last of Boris Johnson by any means.